So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Spark Fiction 3M. So we are back with a brand new movie on What If DEKU Slept with Moke to develop a quirk. But before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. Mo carried the badge of being Endeavor's second in command with as much honor as she could muster. When she first joined his agency, she, like most people, didn't really like Endeavor, on the basis that he was basically an asshole. And by basically, she meant he was an asshole. But, slowly, before she even knew the man, she had started to respect him. Not as a man or anything, dude was a grade A bastard, but as a hero, kinda. He was driven, always pushing himself harder and doing more, and he even encouraged his sidekicks to do the same. In his own kind of way. His own Sunere way. Only without any deer and replace the Sun with asshole. But hey, everybody hated their boss at least a little bit. Originally, she just wanted to use him as a stepping stone, but now she was pretty happy working at his agency. She got to boss a lot of people around and almost everything was fireproof, which was a great bonus and why she lived at the agency due to the nature of her quirk and her hair, basically being made of fire. While she almost had enough to buy and then fireproof herself a new house, it was for the best if she stayed at the agency for a while yet. She did good work there. Smoke. Mo paused, stopping her nightly jog and blinked up at the pillar of smoke that was rising up from a nearby building. She didn't even think before turning to run down that road heading towards that burning building. Given her quirk, she was used to being the cause of starting fires. She wasn't going to let anyone die because of a fire if she could save them. She found the firefighters, dressed in their heavy heat-resistant equipment, scrambling around as they prepped the fire hose. She arrived right on time to see a man come running out of the building carrying someone over their shoulders, a bit of embers following after them. "What's the situation?" Mo asked, running up towards the man in charge. He was an old grizzled man with a Dalmatian dog face. He raised an eyebrow at her before turning back towards the building. "Stand back, civilian, this isn't a place for you. I'm the pro-hero Burnin. I'm a sidekick of Endeavor's, and those flames." She pointed towards the building and placed a hand to her chest. Even her casual workout gear was heat-resistant to a degree purely out of necessity. "Won't be able to even scratch me. I know how to fight fire with." "If you're asking, you don't have a fire's license," the dog barked at her, a vicious snarl on his canine face. "Your agency has caused us more than enough problems in the past, so get lost before." A scream tore from the inside of the building as a gout of flame burst out one of the windows. Backdraft had scarier attacks than that. Mo ran towards the building. "Hey, get back here," the captain barked, chasing after her. "People need saving. Yell at me later." Mo ran into the entrance as the heat blasted her in the face. It was nothing but a warm breeze to her. "Dumbass. Izuku, you got A." His shouting was drowned out by the roaring flames. The lower rooms were likely the first ones evacuated, and that scream came from the top floor. The flames were already spreading, but compared to Endeavor's hellfire, this was nothing. Mo took blasts of fire far hotter than these flames every time she got the chance to spar with her boss, and his grew stronger every single day. There was no inferno that she feared. As Mo made her way up the staircase, she was reminded that there was more than flames to worry about. The smoke was growing thicker as she went up, nearly blinding her and choking her out as she advanced towards the source of that scream she heard earlier. What floor was she on? How close was she to that scream? The building was nothing but a confused mess of burning corridors. A surge of flames burst down from the ceiling above Mo and she heard that scream again, one floor up. She pushed through the stairs, using her quirk to blast away some debris before it could fall on her and create a vacuum for her to see clearly in. She kept her head down low, sleeve over her mouth even as the ashes agitated her eyes. She was going to save them. She had to. She wasn't going to let anyone die in a fire if she could help it. Not again. Mo heard that scream again. It was female, young, probably some scared little girl. She just needed to hang on. She was going to get saved. Mo found the door closest to the scream and found that while it wasn't locked, it was barred. Something must have fallen blocking the way. The door was hot to the touch as well. There was a blaze on the other side of it with smoke seeping out from the cracks around it. Damn it. Without knowing exactly where the girl was, she wouldn't be able to blast her way through. She rammed her shoulder into the door and felt it budge. That was good. She just needed to press harder. The door crumbled, sending her falling forward and onto a pile of burning wreckage that had been spat out from the floor burning above. Mo heard the scream again. Steam flew out of Mo's mouth as she let her quirk blaze, giving her the strength to blast off the door and out of the rubble. What remained of the apartment was nothing but a crisp former shell of what it once was. She pushed through the rubble, past the smoking couch, towards the bedrooms. "Hello." She choked out past a lung full of ash and soot as she glanced into one of the rooms. "Hello?" A reply came from the other room. Mo spun, pulling the door open and looking inside to see a girl trapped by the flames, her back against the wall as burn marks marred her exposed limbs. "Hang on, I got you all right?" She took a few steps forward, moving through the flames while taking her jacket off. The smoke was getting to her. She was having a hard time breathing and the room was spinning, but she was going to save this girl. No matter what. Mo kneeled down in front of the girl. She was probably a preteen, just old enough to be left on her own in most cases. She started to wrap the girl up in her jacket. "Here, my jacket's fireproof, it'll keep you safe. Just make sure you don't touch me right now, I'm really hot." "Your hair is on fire," the girl said softly. "Yeah, it does that." Mo rolled her eyes and moved to pick the girl up. She needed to find a safe way out of here. The smoke was growing thicker by the moment, and the flames weren't far behind. She needed to move fast. Hold on tight. Flames lashed up from the stairs, debris clouded every other exit. The street. Hopefully those firefighters set up a ladder, or a trampoline people catcher thing. They still had those right. But which way was the street? Where was the exit? How did she get out of here? Smoke filled her lungs. The girl in her arms was coughing. The room was spinning. Why was the room spinning? Why was she feeling like this? Why? Oxygen. There was a lack of oxygen. How had she managed to forget something as basic as that? She should have known better. Damn it. Mo stumbled forward, trying to find her way out of this maze. She collided with something. Someone. A firefighter. He stood a full head taller than her in the bulk of his uniform. His equipment made him look like an unstoppable juggernaut of human determination. The gas mask obscured her sight of him and the axe in his hand looked ready to shatter any walls that stood in his way. She felt his hand grab her shoulder, sturdier than any ground she had ever stood on. The next moments came in flashes, her handing the child over to him, her whispering, "It's fireproof." His mask covering her face, and then, the ground, 4x. All right. Well, that was running into a burning building off of her bucket list. Mo groaned, pushing herself up out of her bed as she tried to remember everything that happened yesterday. She had regained consciousness at the hospital. The girl was burnt, but she'd be fine. At some point Backdraft had shown up to take her back to the agency where she would stop burning. Melting things in her sleep medical equipment was too expensive, but in general they thought she was okay. Of course she was. She was burnin'. Endeavor's right-hand woman, even if he was a giant Tsunere and wouldn't ever admit it. Now she could get back to work and do what heroes were supposed to do, fight villains. Not that firefighters weren't heroes, just that, well, man, we kind of fucked up with that whole naming thing, huh? She thought back to that firefighter, the one that had carried her out of the building so easily. She'd been wearing just a tank top and her sports bra at the time with her jacket covering that girl. That man had saved her life. First order of business was to go find him and thank him. Her stomach growled. But first, some fuel. The firehouse was 3 buildings away from the Endeavor agency and was built a few years ago. Largely because, well, there were a lot of people with fire quirks at the agency. A lot. And there were a lot of things in the city that were generally considered to be rather flammable. In short, the city said that they were a light risk and built a fire station right there, funded in part by Endeavor himself. And so the Todoroki Fire Station was born. Oddly enough, they rarely had to put out any fires caused by any of Endeavor's sidekicks because of the fire prevention training they all went through. But it was still one of the best stations in all of Tokyo. After lunch, Mo made her way towards the station, and found one of the fire trucks she had seen during yesterday's events, or so she hoped, being maintained by a couple of firemen, specifically the Dalmatian-faced fire chief that had yelled at her yesterday. At least this time she was in her hero uniform this time, so he might give her some respect and not scold her. "Hello." She pressed both hands behind her back and stood at attention. "I'm Burnin', one of Endeavor's sidekicks. I'm the dumbass that ran into a burning building and needed to be rescued," Chief Dalmatian said, taking a moment to look away from the fire truck. He let out a sigh that turned into one of those dog yawns that had his whole jaw exposed for a couple of seconds. "Still, because of you that girl was saved. So, thanks." "Okay, she wasn't expecting that. I'm a hero, risking my life to save others is what we do. Besides, normal fire like that won't hurt me." Vernon couldn't help but stick her chest out in pride. She had just gotten praised after being scolded. That was the best kind of praise. I couldn't just do nothing. "I understand. Still, I trust you learned your lesson about how dangerous a burning building is now." It wasn't like she thought it was safe. "I have a better idea now. I'll have to request a proper mask for my costume if I plan on doing that again." She patted her fire extinguisher, which was mostly a just-in-case gadget for her. But I'll leave that to the pros in the future. Captain Dalmatian barked out a laugh. Ha, well if you're interested, we do offer fire classes for the local volunteers, though I'm not sure we have a helmet that could handle your hair, is it? Actually fire. Yes. It's hot but not that hot, and it doesn't produce smoke. Mo ran her hand through her hair and sighed. She couldn't even get it cut, but at least she could kind of style it, even if there was a stubborn strand that would always fall in front of her face. The chief didn't need to know that when she got flustered her hair could easily set off fire sprinklers. It made middle school slightly awkward. But I actually came here for a reason. The firefighter that saved me. Would he happen to be here today? Mo felt herself twitch and fidget, her cheeks feeling just the slightest bit warm. I would like to thank him for saving me. It's not something I'm used to having happen, you see. Ah, is that so? The dog-faced man lifted up his hat and looked her up and down for a moment before he shrugged. Well, the one that saved you was Izuku Midoriya. He's one of our newest recruits, but he's an ace at rescue. If you want to thank him, he's normally in the gym about this time. The dog pointed a thumb back into the large garage that was filled with engines and firefighting equipment in uniforms. Just through the back there, you should be able to find it if you follow the smell of sweat. As for Midoriya, you can't miss him, he's the tall boy with green hair. Thanks. Mo gave the chief a respectful bow that he returned and headed into the fire station. Finding the gym was easy enough, and finding Izuku was even easier. Mostly because how could she not look at him? He was buff, currently shirtless and working a bench press machine like an absolute boss, as sweat added just enough of a sheen to his muscles to make him look like a damn model. The last firefighter she'd seen shirtless hadn't looked nearly this good, and that guy was a stripper. She walked up close to him, just so that he'd see her but not close enough to interrupt his workout. After one extra representative he stopped, and looked at her. Yep. He was hot. They were both hot, they should date. Izuku blinked at her looking her up and down. Your hair is on fire. Yeah, that's a thing it does. Technically it was fire, but that was beside the point. Also, come on Mo. Don't let the hot guy get you completely distracted over nothing. I'm Mo Kamiji. You saved me from the burning building yesterday. Oh. Izuku blinked and then smiled at her. I tried to put your hair out. Yeah, it's waterproof. Makes showering easier. Mo shrugged and pushed that stubborn strand of her hair off to the side, which was a clear sign she was currently trying to flirt. Was it working? Why was he cute? Why was he hot? He also saved her. And he was a firefighter, which was apparently a turn-on for her that she didn't know about. Don't have to wash it. Only downside is that I can't really do anything with it. Well, now that I have a better look at it, Izuku stood. Yep, that was the brick wall she had stumbled into yesterday. Your hair really is a pretty shade of green, but I might be a bit biased. Great, now she was blushing. And he was flirting with her. How did this work again? She hadn't had a boyfriend in years, not since the last one got burned. Sometimes her quirk made it really hard to get close to people, but Izuku was a firefighter, he might be able to take the heat. So, since you saved me, why don't we? The sound of a sprinkler going off above her head followed by a torrent of water splashing down on her barely fazed her. Why don't you let me treat you to dinner or something? I'll even let you call it a date. She stood her ground under the torrent of water, hands on her hips as she stuck her chest out. Her uniform was too thick for water to make it transparent, and it was already hugging her curves to the maximum, but hopefully this will send a message. Well, this is the first time I've gotten a girl this wet, so why not? Mo, despite herself, just blushed. She blushed harder than she ever had in her entire life. But, at least she had a date for the first time in years. Somehow, he had ended up going on a date. On a date with a hero. A hero that was dumb enough to run into a burning building, and a hero whose hair he spent a good few minutes trying to put out when he first saved her from that building. Not that he was ever going to tell her he wasted nearly a whole extinguisher on her head before wrapping her head up in her apparently fireproof jacket and shoving her into the ambulance. Mo Kamiji, she was one of the heroes that he had been briefed on a few months ago when he joined the Todoroki fire station. The photo that they had used for her made her look like a deranged fire devil as she was wreathed in flames and dispatching several villains with her fire-based quirk. Honestly, the photo they gave her in description made her look twice as terrifying as Endeavor was. When in reality, she was really cute, and thick. Like with two C.S., maybe even a third just for good measure. In just her jogging gear, she was easily eye candy, even if she was smeared with ash and soot at the time. He was actually glad that she made a full recovery and was doing well enough to march into the firehouse and ask him out. Her hero costume made her look even hotter, largely because thighs, but he also got a taste of her personality. She was his type. Forward, funny, and able to take things as they came. Like when she asked him out while her hair apparently set off the sprinklers, which was caused by a mixture of both her hair reacting to her mood, and that one sprinkler being a bit on the faulty side. And so Izuku was left waiting in front of a surprisingly high-class restaurant for their first date, with Mo offering to pay for everything as thanks for saving her life. And she thought he was cute. Which was great because he thought she was cute. So he wasn't going to just let her only pay for things. Unless the date turned out to be absolutely horrible. But he doubted that was the case. In general, he got along really well with people that charged into burning buildings to save lives. Just like Tamaki and Maki back during training. Izuku hummed, trying not to be too impatient as he waited for Mo. He was the one that had arrived 5 minutes early at their meeting spot, but it was better than just sitting at the fire station or spending time at his depressingly underfurnished apartment. He had a chair, a bed, and a TV that was on a milk crate. Honestly, he was really grateful for the chance to get out of the firehouse and actually go out for once. The fact that it was with a hottie like Mo just made it all the better. The question was if she would freak out about him being quirkless. It was strange, but him being quirkless had been a turn-off that last few times he tried dating. But, this was his first time dating a hero, so maybe they were more open-minded. Besides, apparently heroes had a hard time dating too because of the whole weird hours and high mortality rate. Like firefighters, only less calendars. Mo caught his eye. He had heard legends of the LBD, little black dress, that was supposed to be a woman's ultimate weapon in seduction. Outside of media, Izuku had never really seen anyone actually pull it off. But boy did Mo ever pull it off. Her curves were amplified to the maximum by the dress, as she gave him just a hint of cleavage, while her toned legs were shown in full force. A white band that went from shoulder to hip likewise added to her appearance. A pair of black gloves extended nearly up to her elbows. Then there was her hair. He wasn't exactly sure how she had managed to style living fire into an actual hairstyle, but she did it. The greenish flames were wrapped up into a loose bun at the back of her head, while a few licks of flames framed her face. Hey! Mo came running up to him, a wide smile on her face as she held her purse in one hand. Sorry, I hope you didn't wait too long. I was getting ready. Why is it that every time I see you you end up looking more beautiful? Izuku leaned down to look Mo right in the eye, and he could feel waves of heat rush towards him as he did so. It must be her quirk. Instead of wilting away, Mo stood firm, her red-orange eyes boring into him. She gave a crooked smirk and placed a hand on her hip. Great, now the pressure's on to really knock your socks off for our second date? Second date? We haven't even started the first. What's wrong? She gave a mock pout that made her smile look like child's play. That pout was dangerous, very very dangerous. Hell, he should have been briefed more on that pout and less about her ability to cause fires. Don't think you'll impress me enough for a second date? Oh, she was good. I guess there's only one way to find out. He gestured towards the restaurant and bowed lightly. After you. I think you're supposed to do that after you open the door. You're a strong independent woman. I believe in your door opening abilities. Mo snorted when she laughed hard enough. Apparently that was a turn on for him. Then prepared to be impressed with how I open this door for you. To say the date was going well was to say that Mo's hair was slightly warm. It was completely unlike any of the other dates he had ever been on, and he couldn't stop smiling every time he looked at her, which he was doing a whole lot of. This woman that he had pulled out of a burning building was amazing. She was smart, energetic, and just so much fun to be around. So, Mo asked, swirling her glass of red wine at him with a crooked smile as though she was challenging him. What made you want to become a firefighter? For the record, I'll accept that you just wanted to appear shirtless in a calendar. Izuku returned that smile with one of her own. I'm July, September, and February, by the way. Mo licked her lips. But, as for why I became a firefighter, I originally wanted to be a hero, but here was the real test. I turned out to be quirkless and eventually I met All Might and he gave me some advice, and I ended up becoming a firefighter. It just appealed to me more than being a police officer. Third choice was a teacher though. Once again, Mo surprised him. Unlike any other girl he dated that found out about him being quirkless, as unavoidable as that was, she was actually smiling about it. That's fantastic. I mean you wanted to be a real hero, not one that was only after fame and glory. You just wanted to help people and you found a way to do that. Mo leaned forward, her breasts pressing against the table. They were there. He couldn't not look at them, as a wild smile appeared on her face. You're more of a hero than some of the sidekicks I work with. Did someone sell her a guide to make him like her? Or did he just stumble upon the perfect girlfriend sheet on accident? What about you? Why'd you decide to become a hero? Please don't have a tragic backstory. Please don't have a tragic backstory. Please 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 don't have a tragic backstory. I really doubt that it's because of a failed modeling career. Huh, Mo took a big sip of wine. That was probably not a good sign. Well, it was technically the only choice I really had, as my quirk would make a normal job a bit inconvenient. Mo pulled at one of the flames that framed her face and pushed it to the side. Don't get me wrong, I've always wanted to be a hero. I get to use my quirk, and well. She stopped blinking, looking at him. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be bragging about it. No, it's fine, I'm quirkless, I've been over it for years. Besides, your hair is literally fire. I think getting to know your quirk will help me get to know you a lot more. Izuku gestured towards her hair and put on a grin that hopefully rivaled hers from earlier. Like, I take it I shouldn't ever get you a hat. Mo snorted again, a wonderful sound. I'll have you know I own exactly one hat. A baseball cap from my island that can handle my hair just fine, and I look good in it. Do you do the thing where you pull your hair through the little hole in the back with a ponytail? Oh yay, Mo's smile grew wider, there's no other way to wear it as a girl. Izuku threw his arms wide and rolled his head back, finally someone that understands me. 4x so far the date with Izuku had her feeling like she was on cloud 9. He was handsome, clever, and just hit every mark she was looking for in a guy. It really did feel like she was skipping as they walked through the park, absently talking about whatever subject came to mind. There was nothing that could ruin this night. Hey, Izuku held out his hand to her and smiled. She really did like his smile. They were standing under the stars in the middle of the park, with the only real source of light coming from her hair. Can I have this dance? She was so tempted to say yes. She was so tempted to reach out and grab his hand. She almost did. But she stopped. I'm sorry, I really should have told you sooner. Izuku looked at her confused. It's part of my quirk. She looked at her gloved hands and frowned. My body is abnormally hot, hot enough that I can cause light burns if I hold someone long enough, so I don't think that. Oh, is that all? 1 second. Izuku reached into his back pocket and pulled out a set of gloves. They were thick, and looked a bit on the familiar side. Here, I forgot to empty my pants and left some work gloves in my pockets. On the one hand, that was convenient as hell. On the other hand, that meant he wasn't wearing clean pants. But, Mo found herself unable to care as Izuku grabbed her hands. Sure, between their two gloves there was no skin contact, but it was still amazing. They danced, slowly, less than an arm's length away as Izuku smiled at her. Between the stars, the silence, and just him, Mo found herself getting swept off her feet by Izuku. She could see herself falling in love with him oh so easily. But there was a problem. This touch, it wasn't going to be enough. She'd want to touch him, and he'd want to touch her, skin to skin. Never before had she wanted to find a solution to her temperature problem. She wanted to feel Izuku's skin as he softly touched her. She wanted to fall in love with him. They set their second date. Then headed home for the night. Did you suggest a beach date just so you could see me in a bikini? Did you agree so you'd see me shirtless? I bought the calendar. Mo let out a pout as she glanced around the largely isolated beach that Izuku had dragged her out to. Though, drag was the wrong word. In truth, she heard the words beach and date, and put so many exclamation marks after her yes that the text was still loading. They had gone on a total of 4 successful dates so far. This was their 5th, but yes. Good, because I have to admit, I was a little bit motivated by the bikini. Izuku gave her a light wink as he stood there completely shirtless in a pair of board shorts that were dangerously low. She could see the lines of his muscles that led down to his crotch. Mo bit her lip. She had gotten used to being pretty sexually frustrated, and she generally thought that she could deal with it. After all, she had for years. But apparently she underestimated just how attracted she was to a buff fireman that was really nice to her and only a bit of a bastard when it was funny. She wanted Izuku to touch her so bad. But so far, she hadn't found anything that worked. The support company Endeavor was partnered with offered her a full-on latex-like suit that would reduce the heat, as well as plans for a condom that would be way too thick for anyone to feel anything through. Another agency she contacted said they could work on a suppressant pill, but that could take years and millions of dollars that she didn't have to develop. She wanted to touch Izuku, skin to skin, so bad, but she could wait, she had dealt with this before. Come on. Izuku held his hand out to her for a second. She watched as those strong firm hands paused, then went limp and retracted back to his body. Let's go play some sports then hit the water. Bet you can kick my ass at volleyball. She could last, but how long could Izuku? He wanted to touch her, it was obvious just how desperately he wanted to do just that. He might even have it as bad as she did. You bet I can. Especially if there's just the two of us, because I have no idea how to play one-on-one volleyball. She ran after him laughing as they kicked up sand along the way. Izuku's smile was all hers as he kept looking back to steal a glance at her. At least if she was eye candy, she was easily the best. It's like an aggressive game of, don't let the ball hit the ground. where we get to be dicks to each other. Fuck yeah. That sounds awesome. She laughed, jumping to overtake Izuku as they ran towards the flatter area of the beach. She wanted to tackle him. She wanted to roll on the ground laughing with him as sand got everywhere. She wanted to kiss him. She wanted to do so many wonderful things with him. So she was. She was going to be as close to him as she could get without burning him. 4x. Wait. Mo blinked looking at Izuku as they sat on the beach enjoying their first break of the day. Even if the sun never really bothered her, it still felt good to sit in the shade and relax with a cool drink for a bit. Her custom-made thermos would keep most drinks chilled until she finished them. She glanced at her own rather pale skin, and then at Izuku's ever so slightly tan skin. Shouldn't you be wearing sunscreen? Izuku shrugged. I probably should, but I've never gotten sunburn in my life. The worst I get is just a little bit on the tan side. He laughed and gave her the sweetest smile. My mom could tan in a tsunami though. What about you? Mo shrugged and mimicked Izuku's noise. Trying to get sunscreen that doesn't just melt off me isn't very fun. Besides, I don't really get burnt either. So you can't tan either? I can. I even tried to get a good tan in high school, but the oil I used boiled on my skin and I turned into a gyaru for a few months. Was kind of fun to act like that too. The water bottle in Izuku's hands crinkled and he sat there shaking for a moment while biting his lip. That sounds amazing. Do you have a picture of it? Ooh. Did I discover a fetish of yours? Yep, now gimme. Mo laughed and snagged her phone out of her bag. Don't laugh, alright? This was back when I was in UA. She scrolled through her photos, a few bored selfies, a few underwear selfies she had thought about actually sending Izuku but just hadn't quite managed to actually send them to him. But, now that he had seen her in her swimsuit. Maybe? She arrived at one of her UA photos. It was her, and a friend, posing in a mirror dressed as Gyaru as hell. Her skin was so dark in this one. Here. She tossed him the phone and watched as he hot potatoed it for a few seconds and then held it tight, smiling at the picture. Well, if we went to the same school, I totally would have had a massive crush on you but would have been too shy to say anything. He handed her the phone back and grabbed his own. She watched as he scrolled and then revealed a skinny-looking boy with green hair. This was me in high school. I didn't really hit my growth spurt until like I was 18. Yeah, I totally wouldn't have noticed you. Izuku just shrugged. It is what it is. But, I'm happy I got your attention now. Already. You're the best girlfriend I've ever had. Oh? Mo smiled, narrowing her eyes at him. So I'm your girlfriend now? Totally, and you know what that means, right? He pressed a hand down right beside her, his green eyes sending a shiver down her spine as he maintained an unflinching gaze. I'm your boyfriend. She gave a light shiver, and nearly let out a gasp. She wanted to touch him. She wanted to touch him so much right now. But she really liked that. She really liked that. I like that. Great. Izuku shoved his bottle into the sand and stood. Now come on, let's get into the water. I want to try something. He took off, kicking up sand as he ran, making her wish that he was a star on Baywatch because watching him run like that was making her all kinds of hot and bothered. But instead of just sitting around and watching him, she chased after him, following him as he dove into the sea without hesitation. The water hissed past her ears as her skin came in contact with the sea. While she could burn someone by touching them, and even boil water given the right conditions, she never had much of a problem with swimming. Her body was often obscured though, bubbles formed from impurities in the water heating up quickly. She followed Izuku out into the sea until they were both neck deep in the water. You're a good swimmer. Mo smiled at him and gave him a bit of a wink as she jumped to avoid the swell of a wave covering her. Izuku nodded. Yep, I enjoy it, and that's when I got this idea. Mo let out a gasp when she felt something grab her. It was Izuku. He was touching her? Why? She didn't want to hurt him. What are you? Calm down. He pulled her close and released her before too long. It was less than a second, but it was a touch. There's a barrier of moisture between us, right now. He touched her arm for a few seconds and she felt like she'd never forget his touch. I was trying to figure out a way for us to touch, even if it was just a bit, and this is what I came up with. Even if it's only for just a little bit. So, what do you say? He held his hand out under the water, extending it towards her. His face dripped with the salty water from the swim. Want to dance with me? God, yes. Mo let out a squeal and grabbed his hand softly, enjoying the countless moments of touch as the water flowed between them. It was just the softest, most perfect touch. Moments of skin to skin. Moments of contact, each one a memory in and of itself as she felt Izuku for the first time. She laughed when Izuku grabbed her hips, spinning her around through the water and picking her up over the swell of a wave that came crashing down around them and making her feel so alive. When she fell down into the water she touched all of Izuku, as much as she could. She loved it. She loved the feeling. Hey Mo. Izuku touched her waist, softly. She loved his hands there. She loved when he touched her hips. She just loved feeling him touch her. Can you close your eyes? She could barely contain herself and an excited noise came out against her will and she nodded eagerly. She was so happy right now she could barely speak. How had she never thought of this? How had no one ever thought of this? Okay. She closed her eyes. Great, now hold your breath. She did and nodded. We're going underwater now, okay? Honestly, at this point she would be ready to do anything Izuku said. Water surrounded her and she found herself being pushed back, Izuku's arms guiding her under the water. Then she felt it. Salt water burned her eyes as she opened them to see what was happening. The shallow, clear seawater swirled around them. Izuku's body loomed over her, the light of her hair fighting off his shadow. Their lips were touching. It was a kiss. Her first kiss. A perfectly romantic kiss done under the waves of the ocean. Mo closed her eyes again and let her body melt. She was addicted. This was driving him crazy. At first, it was fun, trying to find ways that would let him touch Mo without burning himself. The ocean had been the most effective. The sheer amount of cold salt water made a great barrier to stop him from burning, but they could only go to the beach so often. And neither one of them were rich enough to own a pool. They had tried lotions, but those were ineffective or just boiled up on Mo's skin. Protective equipment was their only real option, but wearing his fire suit around or having Mo dressed up in her casual fire-resistant clothing wasn't exactly doing it for either of them. Izuku patted Mo's leg. He couldn't feel how smooth her freshly shaved bare leg was through his fire-resistant glove, nor could he really feel her weight through his fire pants. He wanted to feel her, to experience her in full. And she wanted the same. She had asked her support company to develop something thinner that would stop her from burning people just based on touch alone, but that was months down the line. But even then that wouldn't be enough. He wanted to have sex with Mo. They had been naked in the same room before several times, but there was only so much that mutual masturbation and expensive sex toys could really do. Beside, Mo, no pun intended, was really hot. Like, he knew pro heroes were pretty fit, but Mo could have easily been a model with how she looked, and probably would have been if she could wear normal clothes without having to worry about it catching fire or something. They both wanted sex. But the amount of material needed to make sure that his dick wouldn't melt inside of her would make an already tight fit beyond impossible. In a way, it would be a bit like trying to park a fire truck into a compact spot. This, Izuku said, staring at the TV as they had their weekly Netflix and not actually chill session at Mo's house. They had actually watched several series, and he had enjoyed himself. He liked Mo. He liked her a lot. Enough that for months, he had put up with the prospect of no sex for the foreseeable future while being in a relationship with her. She was fun, lively, a bit crazy, and he was pretty sure he was in love with her. Kind of sucks. Mo looked at him. Her flame-colored eyes, slight lip bite, and a frown, told him all he needed to know. She agreed with him. I'm sorry. She pulled her legs off his lap and brought them to her chest, holding onto them. The sadness in her demeanor stung his heart something fierce, and he wanted to rush forward and pull her into a hug. He wanted to make her smile, but he couldn't. For months they had been so careful that he hadn't ever gotten burned. He didn't need to touch the stove to know it was hot. He had seen her bring a cup of water to boil for tea just by holding the cup. Mo pressed her head against her knees and looked away from him. I won't blame you if you want to call it off. You've been more than patient. And, she tilted her head back towards him, her tear quickly turning to steam. I'm really happy with you around, but it wouldn't be fair for me to keep you like this. Mo, Izuku turned to face her, staring at her as he contemplated what to say. There was only one thing to say. He leaned forward and touched her face with his gloved hand, one again frustrated that they couldn't actually touch. I love you. She let out a sniffle, her eyes steaming up as she blubbered for a moment, her mouth making noises that weren't words. Lunged forward and buried her face into his chest. You jerk. Why would you say that when we should be breaking up? You stupid jerk. It's going to hurt so much more now. Because I don't want to break up with you, Mo, Izuku shouted, wrapping his arms around her as he held her, the heat from her hair pushing up against his face. I just wanted to complain is all. I'm so happy when you're around, but at the same time, I'm just so frustrated. She finished for him, her reply muffled. I know I am. I'm frustrated because I wanted to, and I'm frustrated because this isn't fair to you. I love you too, you know, but this is my quirk. You deserve someone that you can have a normal relationship with. But I want you. Mo. I love you. Jerk. She leaned back and glared at him. Stop it. I love you too, but you're right. This sucks. I love you. He repeated firmly. I'm not going to break up with you. If anything, I want to spend the No. Shut up. Shut up. It's not fair. You don't get to say that to me when you know this can't last. Mo let her arms drop and she stared at his legs. You know it can't. Why can't it? Izuku asked, staring at her more intently. We can find a way to make this work. You know we can. There has to be. I'm not going to break up with you over this. Fine, she growled, her face twisted in anger as she locked eyes with him. Let me give you a reason to break up with me. She pressed into him, hands on his shoulders as she pushed him down onto the couch and kissed him. Just like those times in the water, he felt the warmth of her lips. She was hotter than any soup he ever ate, was warmer than the hottest summer day. He had felt infernos more tame than her. But he didn't feel any pain. Instead, he felt the kiss. The softness of her lips, the desperation of the act, and more than anything, he felt the simple pleasure that was kissing her. There, she spat when they stopped kissing. Now you. She stopped looking at him, her eyes going wide as her mouth dropped. What? Izuku asked, his hand going to his lips. You're not burned. Mo said so softly she made whispers sound like shouts. Izuku felt his lips. He didn't feel anything save for the post-kiss tingle he got after kissing Mo. Mo scrambled up off the couch, practically running to her kitchen table that served as a catch-all for all her mail. She grabbed a random letter and held it up. In a matter of seconds the paper began to burn and crinkle under her heat. She stared at it for a moment and then looked at him. I'm still hot? Yeah, you were really hot, Izuku commented, still wondering why his lips weren't charred. And why he didn't feel any pain when Mo had kissed him. It didn't make any sense. He had seen the downside of her quirk firsthand. He had to take a fire extinguisher with him when they went on picnics. But no burns. Mo tossed the letter into the sink and ran over to the couch. The sheer elation on her face was more than telling of just how happy she was over this. You didn't burn. I didn't burn, Izuku said, though he was still questioning how. Here, Mo grabbed his hand and pulled off the glove. Let me see, okay, just a touch. Just a touch. Izuku nodded and held his hand out for Mo. She touched him with a single finger. It was warm. Like he was holding the hottest cup of coffee in that one single spot. She stared at him, head tilted to the side. Nothing? It's warm. But it doesn't hurt. Mo's smile was contagious as he found himself smiling wider and wider. She was so cute when she was excited. She grabbed his hand with both of hers, creating a hand sandwich, and now. Izuku shrugged. A little warmer. Why wasn't he getting any burns? Where was the pain? Sure, he'd never actually been burned before, but that was because he was careful and lucky. Or was it? Mo gave an excited giggle as she closed all but one of his fingers. Final test. It was slow, it was wet, and it was hot in every single sense of the word. But when Mo put his finger into her mouth he felt two things. Extreme heat, like sticking his finger inside a still-running oven, and a deep, incredible sense of arousal at the lewd act Mo was doing. She pulled his finger out slowly, a trail of hot saliva bridging the two of them. She wiped her lip and smiled at his finger. She looked him in the eyes, her smile growing wilder by the second. Have you ever been burnt in your life? You said that you were the best firefighter, and that you didn't even get sunburnt, right? She was practically laughing as she scooted closer, her hands moving to grab at the protective equipment he had borrowed from work. I don't think so. His mind felt like it was swimming in a bathtub filled to the brim of ice. While his body got hotter and hotter as Mo continued to strip him, his gloves were sent flying, his jacket was pushed to the side. But, I don't understand. Why? Mo beamed at him and jumped onto his lap, her hands burning his undershirt off as she touched his abs. Sorry, I'll buy you a new shirt. But I think this is your quirk. She looked so happy. My quirk? He finally snapped out of the stupor long enough to place his hands on Mo's hips. She was really warm, it almost made him want to flinch, like the heat he would feel staring at a fire. But the more he touched her the more that warmth was starting to feel normal. I don't have a quirk. You do. Mo exclaimed, tossing the now burnt remains of his shirt to the side. Think about it. You're not burning now despite your shirt burning away. You've never even gotten sunburnt. It makes perfect sense. That's why you chose to be a firefighter instead of a cop. Because deep down you knew that fire wouldn't hurt you. Well, what if it's your quirk and you can? He started but stopped when Mo placed a finger to his lips. Izuku, if you think it's because I don't want to burn you, I have several ex-boyfriends that would like to have a word with you, as would my parents' first home. Fair. So, my quirk is that I can't be burnt? He asked. Isn't that just really convenient? I mean, what are the chances that? Izuku, I can touch you without burning, so do you want to talk about why, or do you want to cuddle the living hell out of me and make out? She made a very good point. Izuku spent the next few hours with a very happy Mo in his arms as they cuddled and watched movies like a normal couple. But then, Izuku finally realized what all of this really meant. Hey, can we fuck? Mo looked at him, her eyes wide as she processed what he had just said. She bit her lip and nodded. His hands were on her hips, fingers pressed deep into her skin. Skirt pushed up, higher, higher, higher. Toes barely touching the ground as he kept thrusting up into her, her ass pressed against the wall as she felt the raw passion she had been longing for years. Mo let out a moan, and in response Izuku grabbed her harder, firmer, pressing closer up against her as he kissed her. Sex had become an instant addiction. She had years to make up for, after all, and Izuku was more than eager. Since they had discovered his quirk, they had done it everywhere. Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living room, everywhere where she wouldn't burn everything down. And, with this latest bout, work. That extra thrill of getting caught, the desperation, the spontaneousness, the desire, of it was all adding to her arousal. She melted into Izuku's kiss, her fingers grasping at his hair as she felt his dick reach her depths. It was so filling, so thick, and, despite everything, somehow warm. Warmer than it had any right to be because of her quirk. It was amazing. It felt amazing. Just feeling Izuku was amazing. She loved touching him, she loved feeling him. Touch was such a big part of sex. It was why she was so addicted to it, why she was so addicted to him. She loved his touch. I love you, she let out a breathless grasp as Izuku's fingers dug deep into her thighs, pushing her up higher, her legs wrapping around his waist, her fingers tangled deep within his hair as she let out a long moan. She couldn't count the number of times Izuku had made her eyes cross, made her legs feel like jello, and just brought her to a satisfying climax. Izuku. He kissed her agai, hips thrusting, deeper and deeper, pushing her up against the wall as he kneaded one of her breasts through her thick hero costume. He always paid attention to her breasts, even when they were just cuddling. It'd only be a matter of time before she was braless and he'd start to tease her there. It was mere moments before she kissed him. That kiss would turn into something more, and that something more would progress, and cuddling would quickly turn into sex. She felt Izuku climax, his hips pressed against her, and his dick twitched, pumping her full. Her toes touched the ground and Izuku gave her a soft kiss as he always did after sex. She loved his post-sex kisses. And the way he held her afterwards. Mo, I love you. Izuku said softly as he pulled out of her and quickly pulled his pants back up. But give me a warning when you pull me into the locker room to have sex. Mo kissed him on the cheek, and winked at him. You're the one that was fucking me, but, tonight, if you want to stay over again, I can be on top. Izuku gave a groan. The same groan that he always gave when she said something that really turned him on. That'll be the 7th night in a row I stayed over. I like sleeping in the same bed as you, she whispered into his neck, kissing him again. She wanted him all hot and bothered before he went back to the station. I don't even mind, when you're on call. Oh, Izuku looked at her with a serious look on his face. If that's the case, why don't I just move in? Mo screamed and jumped up into Izuku's arms. Yes, I accept. You're now my live-in boyfriend. This is going to be great. How much stuff do we need to bring over? Izuku didn't even flinch as he held her up. Did she mention she loved his muscles? Having a fireproof firefighter for a boyfriend was exactly what she needed in life. Though, hopefully he wouldn't just be her boyfriend. Not much, I think I have more clothes at your place anyways. Great, that means it's official. She nuzzled his cheek and hugged him tight. I'm going to cuddle you to death. Well, it's a good thing I got used to your heat then. Izuku kissed her softly. Yep. I'll see you tonight, we should make something special for tonight. They finished getting dressed and mildly unsexed and headed out of the locker room. Only for someone unexpected to be walking down the hallway towards them. It was Endeavor, her boss. And he looked pissed. Well, he normally looked pissed, but this was an extra level of pissed that she hadn't quite seen before. Burnin'. Endeavor growled, his flames growing. Who exactly is this? Oh, this is. And where's your mask? Crap. Hello, sir. Izuku walked up without hesitation, his hand extended towards Endeavor with a level of casualness that honestly turned her on. I'm Izuku Midoriya. I'm a firefighter at Todoroki Station. I'm just here doing an inspection of sorts. He turned and smiled at her. I'm also dating Mo. That's not a problem, is it? Shit. What the hell was he doing? Endeavor growled and looked between them. So you're the one the fire chief mentioned in his email. Finish your inspection and leave. As for your personal life, do what you want. Endeavor glared at her before he continued on his way. But keep it out of my office. Mo walked up and slapped Izuku hard on the shoulder. What was that? What? I was just being honest with him. Izuku laughed and smiled at him. And he did say office, not agency. The fact that turned her on scared her just a bit. 4xa year after Izuku moved in with Mo, he decided it was time to pop the question. She asked what took him so long. The date was set for summer, at the very beach that they first kissed. Honestly, Izuku never would have thought that he'd feel like a stripper at his own damn wedding. But here he was. Shirtless, with a bow tie on and fake cuffs tapping at his wrists. The white swim trunks he had on were completely submerged, elbowing the calm shallow waves of the ocean. The guests sat up on the beach, the front row barely getting their ankles wet, though his mother was crying enough to raise the local sea level by a lot, while Mo's family was looking as happy as could be. It was a small gathering, but that was what they wanted. Besides, they couldn't get too many people to show up at the beach. The reason for the beach bikini wedding was actually simple. It would have cost way too much money to get a fireproof wedding dress and suit made for a one-time use. So naturally, they just got a pair of swimsuits so that they could wear them again later. The music started, and Mo came out holding a burning bouquet of flowers. Her veil likewise was slowly smoldering away as her hair kept touching it. Even if she was wearing a simple white bikini that showed off far more than what her father would have liked, she was beauty incarnate, especially her smile. Her flowers and veil had burned away by the time she stood before him, all smiles and just filled with all the love they had between them. Do you, Mo Kamiji, take Izuku to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Do you, Izuku Midoriya, take Mo Kamiji to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. They extended their hands out towards each other. The contact was instant. Izuku reached across the water and pulled her into a kiss. Mo's surprised gasp, followed by the hoots and hollers from the crowd, made it worth it. You were supposed to wait. The priest tossed their fake Bible behind them. Whatever, you signed the thing already. They're man and wife, y'all. Cheering came from the crowd and Izuku held his now wife in his arms, smiling down at her. I love you. I love you too. Mo whispered back. Now, let's get out of here, right? On it. Izuku reached into his pocket and pulled out a flare gun. With a single shot, a boat that had been hidden around the corner came humming into view. That boat was a lot less than a fireproof wedding dress would have cost. He helped Mo up and his best man jumped overboard to swim to shore. Their honeymoon had begun. And their happy life together was officially on the way. The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.